إن الحمد لله نحمده تعالى ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا ما يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم أما بعد. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the brothers at Masjid Salafiyah for having invited me again in delivering the A to Z of Ramadan. I was last here delivering the same program in 2010. So it's a great honor to help the brothers and sisters prepare for Ramadan. I'd also like to congratulate everybody for coming on such a nice sunny day to spend some time thinking about Ramadan, because some people, they will not think about Ramadan till Ramadan begins. So those people who have tawfiq, who are supported and helped by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are thinking about Ramadan even before Ramadan begins. So this is from the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The format of the course or lecture is there are two lectures of 45 minutes. The first will cover the benefits of Ramadan and the foundations of Ramadan, namely those people who have to fast and those things which break the fast. The second lecture will cover the etiquettes of fasting, which are those things, those sunnah actions, which we should try to do. And I will also mention some other points regarding Taraweeh and i'tikaf and whatever else comes to mind. First of all, to say that fasting, many of us, we may be dreading fasting, that we'll be fasting for 19 hours every day. That's a long period of time. However, we as Muslims should be looking forward to the fasting. And the early Muslims, they would make the dua, Allahumma ballighna Ramadan, that Ya Allah, make it such that we live to see Ramadan. That this year, many people, they have died. Many people have died. Many other people, they have become severely ill, such that they will not be able to fast this year. So it's a favor from Allah that we can engage in this ibadah in Ramadan. So we should look upon it as a blessing and not as a curse. To mention some of the benefits of Ramadan, I wanted to just mention several points before I start with the fiqh. Is the ayah in the Qur'an in Surah Al-Baqarah, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykumus siyamu kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. That this is the main ayah regarding fasting in the Qur'an. That, O you who believe, fasting is prescribed for you as it was prescribed to those before you, such that you may attain taqwa. Not such that you may lose weight, or such that you may be Pakistani, rather such that you attain taqwa. So this is the whole reason why we're fasting, such that we are closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We should realize that fasting is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. Your whole Islam rests on 5 pillars. And the next month is solidifying this pillar of fasting. So it's a very important aspect of our deen. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayah from the Qur'an, He is calling upon the people of Iman. Only the people of Iman, or those who have strong Iman, they will respond to this call from 1,400 years ago. Now, there are many Muslims in Huddersfield who I'm sure they will not be fasting. So these people are not those who have strong Iman. They have weak Iman. So this is a call for the people of Iman, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. To mention some of the hadith regarding fasting, which all of us know, but maybe many of us have forgotten, is number 1, that this fasting is the most sincere of the forms of worship. Why is it the most sincere form of worship? Come on, brothers and sisters, a few questions because time is short, so I won't ask too many today, Insha'Allah. Why is this such a sincere form of worship? Because only Allah knows that when you claim you are fasting, nobody knows whether you're really fasting apart from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whilst other forms of worship, when you pray, when you do the hajj, when you give your zakat, then these are visible things. So this fasting is between you and Allah. Between you and Allah. There is no medical test to prove you are fasting or not. It's strictly between you and Allah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said in a hadith Qudsi, Kullu amal ibni Adam lahu illa siyam fa innahu li wa ana ajzi bih. That every action of the son of Adam is for him, except the fasting which is for me, and I will give reward for it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is emphasizing in this hadith Qudsi that the fasting is very sincere. And this is why some of the ulama, they said that the reward for fasting is without any limit. That usually the reward for any good action in Islam is between 10 to 700 times. However, with fasting there is no upper limit. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said in the Qur'an, إِنَّمَا يُوَفَّى الصَّابِرُونَ أَجْرَهُمْ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. And those who are patient, then their reward is without limit. So the ulama said that this ayah in the Qur'an and this hadith, they indicate that the reward for fasting is uncapped. Other important hadith which show us the magnificence of the month of Ramadan is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said that fasting is a shield, and every day a Muslim fasts in the way of Allah, then his face is distanced from the hellfire by a distance of 70 years. Also from the excellence of Ramadan is that there are 8 gates to paradise. One of those gates is called what? The door of fasting is known as Ar-Rayyan. And interestingly enough, of the 8 gates of paradise, this is the only gate that is named in the Sunnah. The names of the other gates we do not know. And also another interesting fact is that the month of Ramadan is the only month mentioned by name in the Qur'an. As far as I know, it's the only month which is mentioned specifically. So this all shows the greatness of fasting. Also, we know that the fasting person, he will be rewarded twice, or rather he will feel delighted twice. Once is when he breaks the fast. Everyone feels happy the moment the date arrives in the mouth, and the second time is when we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are many hadith which maybe we don't have time to cover all of them. I'll just mention one or two others. One is that the fasting and the Qur'an, they will intercede for the person who fasts and the one who reads the Qur'an on the Day of Judgment. So they will come and they will take on a different form. They will come and say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that this person, he fasted for your sake, so save him from the hellfire. And then the Qur'an will come and say that this person spent the night reciting the Qur'an, so save him from the hellfire. So these things, Insha'Allah, they will help us on the Day of Judgment. Okay. We have many points I can mention, but because time is short, I have to be brief. How do we know when Ramadan has begun? This is the first and foremost point. How do we know that Ramadan has started? Well, a few questions just to keep everybody awake. Sighting of the moon. This is a very controversial topic, and I don't want to go into it in any detail. However, there are 2 issues. There are 2 issues regarding sighting of the moon. The first is, do we sight the moon or do we use calculations? This is the first ikhtilaf. And the second ikhtilaf is that where should we sight the moon, if we should sight the moon? The first one's very easy. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, Sumu li ru'yatihi wa aftiru li ru'yatihi. That fast when you see it, and don't fast or break the fast when you see it. Meaning the crescent of Ramadan. So this is very simple, and Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, he cites ijma' or a consensus of the companions that they all agreed that the way that the fasting month is determined, or any Islamic month, is by physical sighting. So the use of calculations, even some of the ulama, they said this is an innovation. So we've specifically been asked to sight the moon. فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. That whoever witnesses it, let him fast. So this is the first point. It's very simple, that the sunnah of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is that there must be a physical sighting. How many people must sight the moon? Only one person. As long as one trustworthy person sights the moon, then this is sufficient. A Bedouin came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, I have seen the hilal, the new crescent. He said to him, do you testify that there is only one worthy of worship except Allah, that is Allah, and that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah? And he said yes. Then he ordered Bilal to make the adhan. So as long as one person sights the moon, then the month of Ramadan has begun. So we say that calculations are out, moonwatch.com is out, and sighting.com is in. So this is the first thing. Second point is that where should the sighting happen? The first one is a difference which should not really even be considered. We say that we have to sight the moon by the physical eye. As for the second, where we should sight the moon, this is a genuine difference of opinion amongst the scholars. And there are many different opinions. Some say you should sight it in the country in which you live, which would be the UK. Others say you should sight it in the nearest Muslim country, which might be Morocco. Others say use other countries. Others say we should go for a global sighting anywhere in the world. So there are many, many different opinions as to where the moon should be sighted. I have a whole khutbah on this topic. However, in summary, just to say that the most important thing when looking at this issue is the issue of unity. That we as Muslims in the UK, there is no central leadership for the Muslim community. So we need to be united in these issues of Eid and Siyam. We need to be united. So we say that the majority of Muslims in the world, they follow the sighting in Saudi. Not because we love Saudi or any other reason, but because Mecca is a unifying factor amongst the Muslims, correct? When everyone sees Islam channel and Imam Sudais comes on Thursday night, everyone feels happy and they feel strange if they're not fasting the following day. They think, well, what about us? So Mecca is a uniting factor for all Muslims. And we find now that maybe 60% plus of Muslims in the UK, for whatever reason, they follow Mecca. So this is a strong basis for following the sighting in the capital of Islam, which is Mecca. So this is why? Not because it's Saudi Arabia or because we're Wahhabi or for any other reason. Many people, they reject this because I don't want to be a Wahhabi. It's not a case of Wahhabi, it's a case of we as a Muslim community, we should try to look as united as possible. And if the majority of Muslims, they agreed upon a local sighting, then this would be a strong case for us to follow them and go by a local sighting. Allah knows best. So this is the rationale behind following the sighting in Mecca. Okay, coming on to the issue of fasting, the fiqh of fasting. The first lecture is foundations of fasting. First of all, when we say fasting, what do we mean by fasting? Fasting means abstention, and this comes from the ayah in the Qur'an when Maryam, the mother of Jesus alayhi salam, she said, "Inni nadartu lirrahmani sawman falan ukallima al-yawma insiya." That she said, I have taken a vow to abstain from speaking and I will not speak to anybody. So here the word she used was sawma, which means abstention. So when we talk about fasting, the third or fourth pillar of Islam, then what we mean by this is abstaining from food and drink and relationships with one's spouse in the daytime of the month of Ramadan. So this is what is meant. Very, very simple, and this is something we all know. How do we know that fasting is even from Islam? Whenever we look in any book on Islam, every single action needs to have some kind of basis from the Qur'an or from the Sunnah or from both. There has to be a basis. So whenever you look in any book about Siyam or Hajj or anything, they always begin by explaining it's in the Qur'an and in the Sunnah. So the ayah in the Qur'an, which I already mentioned, is the evidence that fasting is from Islam and it is compulsory. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykumus siyam kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. O you who believe, fasting is prescribed for you as it was prescribed to those before you, such that you may attain taqwa. And from the Sunnah, it's obvious, the hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu anhuma, the hadith bunya al-Islamu ala khams, shahadati an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadur Rasulullah wa iqamis salah wa ita'iz zakah wa hajjil bayt wa sawmi Ramadan. So everyone knows this, the 5 pillars of Islam, and everybody, even non-Muslims, they know that Ramadan is part of Islam. And if anybody denied the obligation of fasting, then they have left Islam. As for not fasting, then this is a separate issue, and inshallah I will mention this. The obligation of fasting became an obligation in the 2nd year of Hijrah. And prior to this, it was an option. It was an optional act. وَأَن تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. That you fast is better for you. Ayah in the Qur'an that you fast is better for you. So before, the Muslims, they were given the option of either paying the fidyah, feeding one poor person, or by fasting. So they had a choice. And then later, in the 2nd year of Hijrah, after the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he went to Medina, then it became an obligation and there was no longer any choice in the matter. So it's an obligation. Who should fast? Number one, you have to be a Muslim. Okay, you have to be a Muslim. I know of non-Muslims who fast as well. Number one, you have to be a Muslim. Secondly, you have to be an adult, or rather the obligation kicks in when you are an adult. You can fast as a child, I'm coming to this. You have to be sane. You have to be sane. Why do you have to be sane? What's wrong with fasting when you're insane? Why do you have to be sane? Anyone ever thought about this before? Because every action requires what? an intention. Okay, it requires an intention. And if you are insane or you do not have control of your faculties, then you cannot have an intention. So without the intention of fasting, you're not fasting. Just by not eating and drinking does not mean you're fasting. You need to have that intention that you are abstaining from these things for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, before we begin the fasting, we should know that there's something called the day of doubt, Yawm al-Shak. And the idea is that you are not allowed to fast the day before Ramadan or even 2 days before Ramadan. So if we think that it's possible that Ramadan will be on a Friday, we cannot fast on which day? On Wednesday and Thursday. We should try to avoid if somebody is fasting, unless the fasting is a habit. Like say many of the brothers, mashallah, they fast on Mondays and Thursdays. So somebody who normally fasts Mondays and Thursdays, then for this person there is an exception. They can fast on Thursday because they are not intending to disobey this hadith where you are not supposed to fast 1 or 2 days before Ramadan. And many of the ulama, they have said because it's important that the month of Ramadan is distinct, that before Ramadan there is no fasting, in Ramadan there is fasting, and the day of Eid there is no fasting. So it's a standalone ibadah which is in the middle. So there should be no fasting on the day of Shak. The start of the fast, when do we begin the fast? When do we start fasting? This is a question I was discussing with one of the brothers. When do we start the fast? I'm talking about the day of the fast. The day of the fast. Fajr time. When the Fajr time starts. When the Fajr time starts. Many people, I've even come across some people who fasted all their lives and they started the fast at what time, do you think?
Before them. In India, before.
No, not before. They fasted before sunrise. Before sunrise. So many people, they made this critical mistake. So it must be at the beginning time of Fajr is the beginning time of the fast. Subh as-Sadiq, or Fajr as-Sadiq, the true Fajr. So this is the beginning of the fast. So please don't make this mistake. Some people, they looked for the sunrise and they thought the fast begins at sunrise. So this is one of those mistakes that some people, they make. There must be an intention when you start fasting. What words should you say when you start fasting? Remember, some of the questions are trick questions. What words should you say? Nothing. Okay. Okay, you should have the intention. Okay, there is no words to say. The intention, it springs from the heart. Do you need to have an intention every single day? No, you don't need to have an intention every single day. What you need to have, you have the intention of fasting the whole of Ramadan. When you start Ramadan, you have this intention already, correct? Everyone is intending to fast the whole of Ramadan, so there's no need to actualize that intention every night. Rather, you're fasting. The only time when you would have to renew that intention is if you stopped fasting in the middle for a legitimate reason, like a sister is on her menses or traveling or temporary sickness. In these cases, you would have to renew that intention that now I'm going to continue fasting Ramadan. However, generally, it doesn't require any effort. You just start fasting because everybody on Thursday or Friday night, that will be the first night of Ramadan, and you will have that intention anyway, that the following day you will wake up fasting. Just a couple more points. Okay, I'm coming to it. I'm just trying to order it, and I know time is short. When does the fast end? We know when the fast begins. When does the fast end? When? Maghrib time. Okay, so Maghrib time is when the disk of the sun is like an orange, when the disk of the sun is no longer visible on the horizon. So when the disk can no longer be seen, then this is the time of Maghrib. And it's also the time of the end of the fast. Can a child fast? Can a child fast? Yeah, he can. He can fast. From what age should a child fast? 10. Any other advances? 7. Okay, 7 is a good guess because the Prophet ﷺ, he encouraged children to pray from the age of 7. Rather, he told the wali, the guardian, to encourage the child to pray from the age of 7 and to do something much worse at the age of 10. Okay, we can't mention it here for security reasons. Okay, so starting at 7 is a good age. Another reason for starting at 7 is because this is approximately the age of tamyiz, which means this is the age when a child can tell the difference between what is wrong and what is right, correct? So at that age, a child can have an intention. If a child fasted at the age of 5, then the child doesn't really know what he's doing. However, when he starts at the age of 7, approximately the age of 7, then he is conscious of what he is doing. So brothers and sisters, it's very, very important that we start training our children at a young age. And this was the practice of the companions, that they would take their children to the masjid and they would give them toys, no Action Man and Barbie. Rather, they would give them pieces of cotton wool to play with to ward off the hunger, because they would be hungry and maybe they would cry out of hunger. However, it's very, very important that we overcome the psychological barrier of being able to fast. And many children fast, alhamdulillah. So we should start training our children maybe at 7, keep 5 fasts and go up, such that by the time you're 10, maybe you're keeping most of the fasts. Such that before they reach the age of puberty, when it becomes an obligation, they are able to keep all the fasts and there is no fear. And in fact, the opposite is true, that children, they enjoy fasting. They look forward to fasting and they enjoy starting the fast and ending the fast with the family. So think about this, and this is very important. Other groups of people who do not have to fast in Ramadan, because everyone is now looking for an exit strategy, that how can I escape from fasting? And one of those groups of people are the sisters who are on their menstrual cycle. Are they allowed to fast? No, it's haram for them to fast. So there's no choice in the matter about fasting. If a sister is on her period, then she is not allowed to fast. Rather, she should make up those days after Ramadan. She must make up those days. Some of the ulama, they spoke about the use of the pill or any other kind of medication which suppresses the menstrual cycle. And some of the ulama they said this is allowed. So why would a sister want to do this? The reality is that many people, they struggle to fast outside Ramadan, correct? Everybody has iman in Ramadan, everyone's feeling strong, and when you see other people fasting, you find it easy to fast. And when you're fasting by yourself, maybe you feel weak and you can't do this. So some of the ulama, they mentioned this. However, it's better just to do things naturally, and if you're on your menses, then just leave the fasting and carry on once you are over the menses. Other people who do not have to fast are the pregnant woman. So if the woman, she fears for herself or fears for her child, then she does not need to fast. Some of the ulama, they spoke as well that if she doesn't fast, then she should also pay fidya. This is a ikhtilafi issue, a difference of opinion, whether she should make up and pay fidya or whether she should only make up. So it may be better to do both, that if a sister is pregnant, then she also, in addition to making up the missed days, she also pays the fidya. There is detail in every issue, however, just this is a summary. Other groups of people who are exempt from fasting are people in old age. That some people, they reach an age where they become physically weak, and by fasting 18-19 hours, it will harm them. So these people, what do they do? What should they do? No, fast half a day. This is a good idea. Good idea. We should have to take that to the fatwa committee for approval. No, fasting half a day is not acceptable. Okay, rather they pay the fidya, which means that they have to pay for the fasting of one per person for every day they miss. So this is people who are of advanced age or who have some weakness. Similar to them are those who have long-term illness where it's unlikely, obviously only Allah knows, unlikely it will be cured. So many brothers, they have certain types of illness where they have to take medication or that they are physically weak. And for those people, it's similar to those who are elderly, that they will just pay the fidya. I came across one brother who had MS, multiple sclerosis, and he was fasting all his life. So in the middle of the fast, he would take medication as well. So people sometimes, they are unaware that if you have these kind of illnesses, then there is no fasting for you. There is no fasting for you, and all you do is you pay the fidya. Other groups of people who are exempt from fasting are those who do certain types of work which are of benefit to the Muslims. Like, for example, a doctor. Say a doctor is performing an operation for 10 hours. That doctor, he probably needs to have high levels of concentration, so he is allowed as well not to fast in Ramadan and to make up the days at a later stage. So there are certain categories of profession which the ulama, they did mention, who are allowed to delay their fasting where there is benefit for the Muslim community. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He specifically mentions two groups of people in the Qur'an who are exempt from fasting for a short period of time. And Allah ta'ala says in the Qur'an, فَمَنْ كَانَ مَرِيضًا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر, that whoever was ill or on a journey, then they should fast from other days. I'll just talk about the sickness first. That so far we've mentioned the sickness which is it's thought that the sickness will not be cured. So there are certain types of illness which are long-term illness, if you like. Then we have the temporary type of illness which many of us we suffer from time to time, and they are of three types. First of all, you have the very, very minor illness, like say you have a headache. Having a headache is no excuse for leaving the fast, unless it's a very, very severe headache. But having just a standard headache, this is no excuse. So a very light illness, this cannot be used as an excuse for dropping the fast. Then we have the excuse which where the illness is more severe, like say a fever or a very, very severe headache. For these people, it's probably better for them not to fast. Not to fast, and the evidence is the ayah in the Qur'an I mentioned. It's better for them not to fast. Then we have that type of illness which is very severe, and if he fasted, then it would make his illness worse or would delay his recovery. For those people, it's haram for them to fast, and they should wait till Allah cures them, and then they should make up those days afterwards. And how do you know this? You know this by asking your local Muslim doctor. So if you're uncertain as to whether you should be fasting or not, then you should ask your doctor. If it's a long-term illness, you pay the fidya, and if it's a short-term illness, then you make up of other days. However, it's very, very important that you don't drop the fasting unless you are certain that the fasting will affect you. We also have the traveller. We have the traveller, and the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is that there is ease in this matter. The companions, they would go on a journey, and some would be fasting and others would not be fasting, and they would never criticize one another. And on one journey, the Prophet ﷺ was on his camel, and he ordered for a jug of water, and then he drank the water on the camel in front of everybody to show them that this is allowed. It's allowed to break the fast. So if you go on a journey, like I don't know, say you went to London or somewhere like this, and you didn't fast, then there's no guilt trip. You should not feel guilty. Rather, this is also from the Sunnah to break your fast. So don't feel guilty. This is allowed. Ayah in the Qur'an that if you're ill or if you're on a journey, then there's no problem, and you make up of other days. Okay, everyone confused or everyone happy? Okay, so far we've covered the excellence of Ramadan, and we've also covered those categories of people who are exempt from fasting. So there are certain categories of people who they either pay the fidya or they make up of other days. Now we come to those things which break the fast. Those things which break the fast. And just a recommendation maybe to some of the brothers who did the calendar, I think it'd be good maybe in future years, maybe you put some of these things in the circles here, because many people, they are unaware of those things which break the fast. First of all, what's the ruling on the one who does not fast? That many Muslims, they will say, I'm British, I don't fast. I have to eat. This is one brother said, I'm British, man. What do you mean? What do you mean not eating and drinking? So what's the ruling? Some of the ulama, they compared this person, he's almost like a non-Muslim. Almost like. So they cast doubt on his Islam. Others said that he's worse than the adulterer and the one who drinks alcohol. Because fasting, remember, is the pillar of Islam. A pillar of Islam. Others, they said that the person who misses a day of Ramadan deliberately, without any excuse, then he will never be able to compensate that day of fasting. Even if he fasted for the rest of his life, then it will still not be sufficient for him. So it's very, very important, brothers, that you don't just discard the fasting without a legitimate excuse. So be aware of this. What things break the fast? Anyone give me any ideas of things which break the fast? Come on, some are obvious. Eating. That's very good guess, eating. Okay, any other guesses? Smoking. Okay, let's keep away from smoking, yeah. Okay, smoking as well, yeah, smoking, inhalation. Anything else? Okay, drinking, okay. Drinking also breaks the fast. Okay, just so I keep my order on the page. Okay, so eating. Okay, what about eating by accident? No. Okay, no. Say you're on autopilot, you go downstairs and you have your Weetabix and you just forgot. It can happen. So that person, he is on autopilot and his fasting is okay. What if somebody saw him eating Weetabix? Should they say? Should they say you should have had 3 pieces of Weetabix instead of 2? What should they say? It's a slow releasing food is Weetabix. Okay, what's the ruling on this? Say you saw somebody in your family having 3 Weetabix in the morning. What should you say to them?
Stop them.
Stop, yeah. It's an obligation upon you to warn them, to tell them that you are eating. So if they're eating unintentionally, then inshallah there's no sin, and the person should carry on fasting as normal. Similarly, with drinking, then there is drinking, of course, it breaks the fast, and any type of medicine in liquid form which arrives in the stomach also breaks the fast. As for injections, then any kind of nutritious injection, it breaks the fast. If it's some kind of virus or some kind of not a virus. Vaccine. Vaccine. That's the one. Yeah. If it's a vaccine, then there's no problem. So anything of nutritious value, then this would break the fast. So things like the flu jab, no problem. The worst thing that someone can do when they're fasting is what? What's the worst thing possible? If anybody is fasting, what's the worst possible thing they could do?
Get angry.
No, something far worse than this. Okay, that's bad. Deliberately breaking the fast is bad, but there's something which is really, really bad.
Eating in front of.
No, there's something else. No, all of these are serious things, but there's something much more serious than all of these things. That's a man having a relationship with his wife. This is the worst thing. Once a man came to the Prophet ﷺ and said that I have been destroyed, that I have had a relationship with my wife in the day of Ramadan. I have been destroyed. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said that are you able to free a slave? And he said no. And then he said that are you able to fast 60 days in a row? So 60 days without gap. He said no, I am unable to do this. And then he said, are you able to give sadaqah, feed 60 people? And he said, no, I am the poorest person in town. So then the Prophet ﷺ gave him dates, and he said, give it to the poorest guy in town. He said, that's me. So then the Prophet ﷺ laughed. Anyway, the part, or the important part of the hadith is that if somebody had a relationship with his wife, then he has to find and free a slave. Any slaves in Huddersfield? Okay. Two for the price of one in Tesco's? Okay, no slaves in Huddersfield. That means we have to then go to level 2, which is what? Okay, 60 fast. So it's not permissible to move to level 3 when you can do level 2. So many people, I heard of 1 or 2 people who actually did this, and they decided to send £60 to Pakistan. So which is easier, 60 fast or £60 to Pakistan? £60 is nothing for most people. £60 to Pakistan, and that's it, job done. However, that person, he must fast 60 days in a row. And you can do this. After you've done the first 4 or 5 fasts, you can fast for a year. Your body is conditioned to the fasting, and you can do it. Anyway, the important thing is that once you know it's haram, then it must not be done. And as for the night, then this is permissible. A man can have a relationship with his wife, because Allah Ta'ala said in the Qur'an, أُحِلَّ لَكُمْ لَيْلَةَ الصِّيَامِ الرَّفَثُ إِلَى نِسَائِكُمْ هُنَّ لِبَاسٌ لَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لِبَاسٌ لَهُنْ. That permissible for you is relationships with your wife. They are your garments and you are their garments. It's a really beautiful way how Allah Ta'ala has described the relationship between a man and a woman. There is no crudeness in the Qur'an or in the Sunnah. Also, another thing which breaks the fast is ejaculation without intercourse. So I don't like to use these kind of words, but masturbation and these kind of things, they do break the fast. They break the fast. However, this is not the same as a man having a relationship with his wife. By relationship with the wife, again, I don't like using these words, we're talking about intercourse here. We're not talking about anything else. We're talking about intercourse. So it's only the issue of intercourse which means that someone has to free a slave or fast 60 days in a row or feed 60 people in order. So this kafara has to be performed in sequence. There's the issue as well of cupping or donating blood. Is this permissible? This is the issue of ikhtilaf amongst the scholars, and the best thing to do, and this is the opinion of Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah and Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, is that they said that cupping, it breaks the fast of the person who cups and the person who is cupped. So both of these parties, their fast is broken. So this is again a matter which is ikhtilafi, however, better to avoid cupping in Ramadan. What about a nosebleed or a small amount of blood from your body? Then this does not spoil the fast. And the difference being that generally speaking, a nosebleed or blood from, I don't know, a small wound to your hand or a tooth, these things are generally done unintentionally, number one. And number two, the quantity of blood involved is usually very small, correct? So these are not comparable. There is no qiyas or comparison between cupping and these other forms of blood. So cupping out other small amounts of blood, they don't affect the fast, Insha'Allah. Vomiting, one of the brothers, he mentioned vomiting. Vomiting does not break the fast unless it is intentional. So if somebody made themselves sick, then in that case their fast is broken. However, if they were sick, I don't know, they smelled something and they were sick, then the fast still counts. So these are important things, brothers. These are the main things: eating, drinking, nutritious injection, marital relationships, ejaculation without intercourse, cupping or donating blood, vomiting intentionally. These are, if you like, in a nutshell, the main things which break the fast. As for kissing the wife and anything short of intercourse and these things, they do not break the fast. However, it's better to avoid these things. On this point, I wanted to mention, I will finish in just 2 or 3 minutes for the break, is to mention that many people, they become obsessed with things which break the fast. However, there are other things which don't break the fast, however they reduce from the reward of the fast. Mubtilatul ajr, or those things which cancel the reward of the fast. And many of the brothers, they mention some of these things, like backbiting. These things, they don't break the fast, however they do reduce the reward of the fast. So you may end up with nothing. That yes, you fulfill the obligation of fasting. However, the reward of the fasting on the Day of Judgment, you'll come with not much in your hands. You fasted 50 Ramadans and you come with not much. And the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, they used to sit in the masjid and they used to say, نَحْفَظُ سِيَامَنَا وَلَا نَغْتَابُ أَحَدًا, that let's preserve our fasting and not backbite anybody. Of course, backbiting and so many other types of sin, they are forbidden at all times. However, in Ramadan, the whole month is sacred and all sins, they count more. So we should be even more careful that we don't reduce the reward of the fasting. You're now struggling for 19 hours. You want to have everything. You don't want to go on the Day of Judgment and you come with just like 1 hour of fasting. You want to come with all 19 hours. So we need to be on best behavior. And like the brother said, arguing and these kind of things, okay, arguing with the missus and stuff like that, save that for Eid. Okay, save that for Eid day. Where's my Eid gift? Okay, it's haram to have Eid gifts. Okay, so save that for Eid. Save the argumentation, or rather don't argue at all. That was a joke. Okay, I think I've covered the foundations of fasting. So in the first lecture, I always like to summarize. We said that Ramadan is an opportunity. It's a great opportunity for Allah to forgive us. That we are sinners. We are sinners. If we are honest with ourselves, we are sinners. So how do we get rid of these sins before we meet Allah? This is the challenge. How do we get rid of the sins? And this Ramadan is an opportunity to get rid of so many sins. This is an opportunity to download sins. Number one. Number two, we talked about the start of Ramadan, the moon sighting via actual physical sighting. We talked about the beginning of the fast, the end of the fast. We talked about those categories of people who have to fast, that Allah Ta'ala, He is merciful to us. He does not want to kill us. وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِكُمْ رَحِيمًا. That don't kill yourself, Allah is merciful to you. So this is from the ease of Islam. Ease of Islam. Islam is not here to punish you. There are certain categories of people who are exempt either totally or exempt temporarily, or they have to pay the fidyah if they're exempt in totality. And then finally we mentioned the 7 or 8 things which break the fast. So we should avoid these things. And alhamdulillah, all of you are here today, so there's no excuse for falling into these things. Now we come to the etiquettes of fasting, or those things, those sunnah actions which will make your fast more valuable, because the closer your fasting is to the fasting of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the more reward you get. So the intelligent person is the one who realizes this, that you want to perform as many sunnah actions as you can with intention of following the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then your fast will be worth more. So no two people are the same in fasting. The two people, they may keep the same fast, however their reward may be much different. So first of all, we will begin with the suhoor. And the suhoor is the meal taken before the beginning of Fajr. And there are certain sunnah. Anyone know any of the sunnahs with regard to suhoor? To hasten in taking, or rather to delay in taking the suhoor. Meaning that you take the suhoor at the last possible moments. Like for example, according to this calendar, the suhoor, it ends on Friday the 20th, 3:08. So carry on eating till, 3:07, and then you have caught the sunnah. So try to delay eating. And Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Tasahharu fa inna fi suhuri barakah." He said that take the suhoor, as in the suhoor there is barakah. Barakah, how is there barakah or blessing in suhoor? Number one, it makes you stronger. That if you make your fast small or short as possible, then you are stronger and you can be more active both in your everyday affairs as well as in ibadah. So it's very, very important, brothers, that we try, number one, to take the suhoor. Don't just go to sleep after Taraweeh and then wake up at midday. Rather, try to stay up. Also, from the benefits of taking the suhoor late is that you catch the last part of the night. And we all know the last third of the night is the most valuable for reading the Qur'an and for making dhikr, making dua. So all of this time, when you wake up to have your Weetabix, by the way, Weetabix is recommended as a good suhoor. Okay, good suhoor Weetabix. Yeah, I have 3. So in addition to having Weetabix, try to have it as late as possible and make dua as well. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that they will be good in this ummah as long as they delay their suhoor and hasten in breaking the fast. As for breaking the fast, then what should you break your fast with? Should it be Weetabix as well, or what should it be? Dates. Okay, there are 2 types of dates. Anyone know? There are 2 types of dates. One is called rutab and the other is called tamar. Okay, all Arabs, they know these things. Yeah, all Arabs, they know these things. With us, dates are dates. However, there's one date which is like a chocolate. You seen that big fat one? Like Ferrero Rocher, Ambassador's Reception. You must have come across it before. So there's the big black one. Yeah, it's very, very soft and juicy. Okay, maybe you don't have it in Huddersfield. You don't grow it in Huddersfield? Okay, it's the soft one. This one is a sunnah, is to take the rutab. If you don't find the rutab, then the sunnah is to take the tamar, which is the dry date, the ones you get in the shops, the dry date. And the rutab is better, it's got more sugar in it, it's more juicy, and is better for you if you're fasting. So try to get the rutab, they sell it in Bradford actually. And if you don't have the rutab, then break the fast with tamar. And if you don't have tamar, then water. So this is the sunnah and this is the sequence, and there are specific hadith which show the excellence of rutab and then tamar and then water. Inshallah, we'll cover the questions at the end. Yeah, I should have brought some rutab with me to sell. Okay, next time, inshallah. Yeah, always looking for business opportunities. Okay, another point to make about suhoor and about iftar. How much should you eat? How much should you eat? How much should you eat? Everyone's thinking, what a crazy question. You should eat as much as possible. Okay, we should follow the sunnah in eating 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Okay, I know nobody does, but really it's very, very important, brothers, that we try to be active in the Taraweeh. That when you've eaten iftar, if you eat too much, then how do you feel when you go for Taraweeh? You feel terrible. You're standing there falling asleep while the Imam's doing the business. So try to be moderate in your eating and you will enjoy your fasting. I mentioned to the brothers a story when I went on Hajj many years ago, and the Hajj group organizer told me, from all my experience on going on Hajj, there's one thing which makes you have the best Hajj ever, which is what? Eating less. He said if you eat less, you'll enjoy your Hajj so much more. And this is so true. No queuing in toilets, no looking for restaurants. There are so many benefits of eating less. Similarly with the fasting, let's try to control ourselves and let's try to change our diets. In addition to trying to adopt good Islamic qualities of good manners, let's also try to change our eating habits. We had a similar lecture in Bradford where a doctor came and he delivered a short lecture at the end of the fiqh lesson, which was very, very interesting. And maybe you can do something like this next year. Maybe invite a GP to speak about what kind of food to eat at the beginning of the fast and the benefits. This is really, it's very, very useful. And we as a community were ignorant that what this food, this pakora and samosa, what it's doing to your system and what it's doing to your arteries and then bypassing all the rest of it, what it's doing to your body. Many of us, we're ignorant. We have diabetes and we have so many other problems in our community because of poor diet. So let's start off by controlling diet. And the doctor, he mentioned that if you fast properly and eat moderately, you should be able to lose 10% of your body weight in Ramadan without suffering. You should be able to lose, and everyone, or most of us, we need to lose a bit of weight. So it's a good opportunity. However, your intention should be for the sake of Allah. You're fasting for the sake of Allah. So this is regarding fasting. What about what other actions should you do at iftar time? In addition to eyeing up the iftar, what else should you do? You should make dua. And one of the important things, brothers and sisters, before fasting, where should you be? Should you be on the road before fasting, or where should you be? Try to be in the masjid or at home or wherever you break the fast. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Try to be in a place where you can focus on your dua. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said that there are three groups of people whose supplication is not rejected. Number one, the just ruler. Number two, the oppressed. And number three, the fasting person. So these three groups of people, their supplications are taken straight to Jannah, and the door is opened, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, لَأَنْصُرَنَّكَ وَلَوْ بَعْدَ حِينٍ, that I will help you even after a long time. So it's very, very important, brothers and sisters, that we spend. Everyone's got problems. Everyone has problems. Sometimes I give the khutbah and somebody comes to me, tells me his whole life story. I've got a problem, wife problem, children problem, this problem, that problem. People have so many problems in their lives. Sometimes everyone looks calm, everyone looks relaxed, but some people, they're carrying problems the size of mountains on their shoulders. So the only way you can answer this is through dua. This is why, interestingly enough, in the ayat in Surah Al-Baqarah regarding fasting, you have some ayat regarding fasting, and then you have the ayat about dua. وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ الدَّعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. So Allah Ta'ala mentions in the ayat of fasting in Surah Al-Baqarah, look for yourself when you open the Qur'an, Surah Al-Baqarah, you'll find the ayat of fasting, and then you'll find 4 or 5 ayat regarding when Allah Ta'ala tells us that if your servants ask about me, then tell them that I am near. I am near, meaning Allah Ta'ala, He knows everything and He will answer your dua. So this is no accident. The ayat of the Qur'an, there is wisdom behind them, and the month of Ramadan is not only the month of fasting and Qur'an, but it's also the month of dua. Your supplications are answered, and everybody has so many problems, or if you don't have problems, say Alhamdulillah. But people have so many issues in their lives, and this last 10-15 minutes of the fast is critical time, and it's a time to put Olympics off and to start worrying about your gold medal in Jannah. I gave a khutbah about this, about going for gold, inshallah, maybe some other time here. Okay, so this is the dua. Is there a specific dua to be mentioned when you break the fast? Is there a specific dua? Okay, there are a number of dua found in the Kutub al-Sitta, Sahih al-Sitta, or the 6 authentic books. There are a number of supplications. However, as far as I'm aware, only one of these supplications is authentic, and Allah knows best. And there is a dua which we can try to memorize, or if you can't memorize it, it's actually written here. And mashallah, the brothers have done a very good job. They've also transliterated it. So if somebody doesn't read Arabic script very well, then they can try to read the transliteration, and also they have the translation here. And it is, what is it? ذهب الظمأ وابتلت الأروق وثبت الأجر إن شاء الله. That the thirst has gone and the veins are moistened and the reward is certain, Insha'Allah. So try to think about the reward from Allah. When you break the fast, don't be worrying about the pakora and the samosa, they'll still be there. Rather, try to think about the reward. You just completed an ibadah. This is the main point. You completed a great form of worship, and you should feel very, very happy that the thirst has gone by the favor of Allah, and inshallah the reward is certain, Insha'Allah. Insha'Allah, the reward is certain. So you should feel really good about it. What else can you do at iftar time? One of the great things you can do at iftar time is help somebody break their fast. You know this? Help somebody else break their fast. And you know, some people, they are so intelligent. They are always helping other people. And this is why Allah Ta'ala has given wealth. Like when you go on Hajj, have you ever seen those articulated lorries? You seen those lorries before? Those massive lorries. And they're full of food. And you seen those guys? What are they doing with the food? They're throwing the food out of the lorry. Anyone been on Hajj before? Okay, no one knows what I'm talking about. But yeah, in Mina, if you go to Mina, you see the lorries. And really it's amazing that these people, they realize they're helping people break their fast, or helping people in ibadah. This is big worship. This is big worship. So try to do this, and if you can't do this here, then you can send some money, I don't know, to Pakistan or wherever, and try to help some people break their fast. And it's something desirable to help someone break their fast and to be in the company of people who break their fast. And this is why our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that when somebody is invited to your home, when somebody comes to your home, or even outside Ramadan, anytime somebody invites you for dinner, then there's a dua, which is أكل طعامكم الأبرار وصلت عليكم الملائكة وأفطر عندهم الصائمون, that the righteous have eaten your food and the angels have prayed upon you, or made dua for you, and may the fasting people break their fast with you. So this is something desirable, that when someone comes to your house, number one, you read the dua, and the dua is that you say to the host, may the fasting people break their fast with you. And the idea is that this is sharaf, this is an honor when people come to your home and they break their fast with you. This is why people are crazy. You know, I remember going to Egypt and people are distributing dates everywhere in the street. Outside the masjid, everyone's giving dates to everybody, hoping that they have helped you break the fast. And I don't know if anybody has been to Egypt before. Everywhere you see on the streets banners. Anyone been before? What does it say on the banner? It says Ma'idatul Rahman. Ma'idatul Rahman. Everyone know Ma'idah? Ma'idah is a chapter in the Qur'an which means a table. Not just any table, but a table full of food. A Ma'idah. Okay, it's not Tawila, it's Ma'idah. It is a table full of food. So in Egypt and maybe other Muslim countries, they have banners everywhere. Ma'idatul Rahman, meaning the food from Ar-Rahman, which is one of the names of Allah, the most merciful. So these people, they are very wise, and you have people queuing. And sometimes you see mansions, not only masajid, mansions. The gate, Ma'idatul Rahman, means that when you go there, you get a free meal. And sometimes they distribute blankets and clothes and so many other things. So people, they are very, very wise, and they know that this is big reward time. This is a sale time when the reward is available. So alhamdulillah, we have food. No one's short of food in the UK. But if you can help Muslims, then this is indeed a great reward. Another great thing you can do when you are fasting is clean your mouth with what? Miswak. Some of the ulama, they mentioned various points that you can only use a miswak in the beginning of the fast, in the first half of the fast, and you can't use the miswak in the second half of the fast. However, Insha'Allah, the correct opinion is you can use a miswak anytime in the fast. Some people will say that there is a hadith how the smell from the mouth of a fasting person is more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than the smell of misk. You heard this hadith before? Smell of misk. Misk is a type of perfume. However, there is no contradiction between the two hadith. This smell is beloved to Allah because the result of this smell is what? The cause of this smell is what? The hunger, the ibadah. Because of the worship, Allah loves this byproduct. Not the byproduct itself, but because the byproduct is a sign of worship. There are many other examples, like the shaheed, or the martyr killed in the way of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He loves the blood which oozes from his wound, even though some of the ulama, they hold blood to be najis or an impurity. However, this is beloved to Allah because it came from a result of worship, fighting to make the word of Allah supreme. And similarly, on the day of Arafah, when Allah boasts to the angels and says that the people, they have come dusty and disheveled, even though Allah Ta'ala does not love people to be dusty and disheveled, rather it's better for a Muslim to be combed and to be tidy and clean. However, Allah Ta'ala, He loves this. Why? Because this dustiness and dishevelment is from what? Is a byproduct of an ibadah. So removing the smell from the mouth with a miswak is from sunnah. So naturally the smell of your mouth maybe becomes unpleasant, and even you can use a toothbrush. There's no harm in using a toothbrush. It's better to try to avoid using toothpaste and things like this in case it goes down your throat. I forgot to mention some points regarding this. Maybe it'll come in the questions. Things like when you gargle in wudu. Ever know madmada? When you gargle in the wudu, you should try to be moderate in this gargling such that the water does not enter your throat. And similarly, al-istinshaq, when you enter water through your nose, then you should try to be moderate in this, even though the sunnah is to exaggerate in the istinshaq, to exaggerate in taking water into your nose. Normally this is the sunnah. However, in Ramadan, because of the possibility that that water, the nose is connected to the throat and it will go down into your belly, for this reason we should be moderate in gargling and moderate in washing the nose. Everyone know this? Okay. What happens if it happens accidentally, that you gargle or you take into your nose? What happens then? No problem. There's no problem. If accidentally you take water, no problem. However, we should be careful. We should be careful and not deliberately seek to enter water into our body. And similarly, some of the ulama, they said with regards to eye drops, no problem, because the eye is not connected to the doctors are sitting here thinking, this guy, man, he knows nothing. He's an engineer. Okay, I know about cement and mortar, but I don't know much about medicine. Anyway, I read in a fatwa that eye drops are okay, and ear drops are okay, and nose drops, because of the likelihood it goes to the throat, try to avoid it. So this is what the ulama said regarding these things. While I'm on that topic, many people, they talk about asthma. There are different types of asthma medications. Some are sprays, others are puffers. According to Shaykh Ibn al-Uthaymeen, who's one of the great fuqaha of the Hijaz, rahimahullah, he says that the puffer, it does not break the fast. So if somebody needs to take an asthma inhaler during the fast, then inshallah this is okay. As for other types of medicine which come as vaporized droplets, then this maybe could break the fast. So be careful. However, there are many fatwa on these issues. So far we've spoken about the suhoor, the sunnah related to suhoor, and the sunnah related to iftar. So what should you do in the fasting day? How should we spend our fasting day? Anyone, any ideas? Reading Qur'an. Okay, Shahru Ramadan alladhi unzila fihi al-Qur'an. Okay, the month of Ramadan is the month in which the Qur'an was revealed. Spend Ramadan reading the Qur'an, and I'm giving a lecture actually somewhere else about the Qur'an, and the main point in the lecture in the Qur'an, I'll just mention the main point. Okay, why do we read the Qur'an? This is a good question. Why do we read the Qur'an? Anyone ever wondered why you read the Qur'an? Okay, nobody ever thought about that before. You know, Maulvi Sahib told me to read the Qur'an. What do you mean, why do you read the Qur'an?
Close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Okay, to close. Ibadah. Okay, these are good reasons. Okay, one of the main reasons. Okay, the main reason is ibadah. This is correct. However, the way we read the Qur'an, or the main intention, is to reflect upon the Qur'an. Allah Ta'ala says in the Qur'an, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. So the main reason of the Qur'an is to reflect on the Qur'an with the purpose of practicing the Qur'an in your life. This is the main reason. We're taught in the mosques to read the Qur'an for what reason? Why do most people read the Qur'an? For barakah, correct? Okay, and no doubt there is barakah. The Prophet ﷺ said that Alif Lam Mim, that even these three letters in the start of Surah Al-Baqarah, for example, then each letter carries reward. Not just Alif Lam Mim is one word, rather every single harf, it carries ashara hasanat, 10 rewards. So it's very, very important, brothers, that we try to read the Qur'an with understanding. So pick up a Qur'an in a language. The Qur'an, of course, is in Arabic. The Qur'an is not in any other language. However, try to understand the Qur'an. Try to have a Qur'an where 50% of the page is Arabic, English. So try to understand something, okay? It's good. Reading is good, mashallah. Try to complete the Qur'an. This is all from the Sunnah and from the practice of the early Muslims. But we need to try to understand. Many of us, we're not Arab, or even if we know Arabic, we only know a little bit of Arabic. So try to get closer to the Qur'an, and you will find that the Qur'an is much more meaningful in your life if you understand the Qur'an. You can read so much of the Qur'an, and at the end of the day, you know, it hasn't changed anything. So try to read, even if you just read one page of Qur'an in Ramadan each day, translation, is better than reading the whole Qur'an in Arabic and not understanding anything. So try to read the Qur'an, brothers and sisters. And it was a sunnah of, the Prophet ﷺ said, do not read the Qur'an in less than 3 days. So as a general rule, a Muslim should not complete the Qur'an in less than 3 days. Why? Because if you read it at that kind of top speed, you probably wouldn't read it properly anyway. You'd be, you know, reading it, just eating the words. However, in Ramadan is an exception. Imam al-Shafi'i, one of the 4 Imams of the Madhahib, he used to read the Qur'an 60 times. He used to complete the Qur'an 60 times in Ramadan. And people may say this is impossible. However, I know of sheikhs who read the Qur'an 60 times in Ramadan. One of the teachers we used to study with in Egypt, he used to read the Qur'an 60 times every Ramadan. He used to tell me that I complete the Qur'an 60 times in Ramadan. It sounds unbelievable, but these are guys who are 24/7 on the Qur'an. So there are people who read the Qur'an. So there should be a combination of understanding and also trying to increase in quantity. There is an element of quantity there as well because of the blessings. However, as well, let's try to understand the Qur'an and understand the meanings of the Qur'an. So brothers and sisters, try to think about this. I'm doing a lecture on this, how to understand the Qur'an and other aspects of the Qur'an elsewhere. So this is one thing we can do in Ramadan. What can we do in addition to reading the Qur'an? Anything else? Anything else we can do in addition to reading the Qur'an? So Qur'an you read and then you want to do something else. So what else can you do in Ramadan? Sorry? The dhikr of Allah, yeah, all remembrance of Allah, and the Qur'an is the best form of dhikr of Allah. All of this is beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, the dhikr of Allah, this is very good as well. So everyone does, you can do the dhikr, you just remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so this is good. Anything else you can do in Ramadan? Charity. Okay, charity, this is very good. Charity is very good. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was the most generous of people. He was generous. Anyone asks him for something, no problem, you can have it. So he's very, very generous, and even more generous in Ramadan. So you have all these leaflets come through your door. So try to respond if you have the money, and then try to give charity. Is there any connection between zakat and Ramadan? Is there any connection? Any connection? There's no direct connection between zakat and Ramadan. Zakat can be given any time in the year. Any time in the year you can give your zakat. Many people, they get confused between sadaqah and zakat. Sadaqah is the general term for giving charity. However, zakat is the obligatory amount of charity. So everybody has a minimum level of charity that you must give. A minimum level of charity you must give. You can't say that, no, I don't want to give that. That is an obligation. And the Prophet ﷺ, he would send people to collect the zakat from individuals. Somebody told me that in Pakistan, they take it from your bank accounts. Is correct? Somebody told me that in Pakistan, they automatically deduct 2.5% from your bank account. So something like that would happen in a Islamic system, if you like. And there are Islamic systems in many of the Muslim countries. They automatically deduct 2.5%. So in the UK, nobody is deducting, nobody is watching, so it comes down to taqwa of Allah. It's difficult to give your zakat. It's easy to give. If you have 1,000, how much do you give? £25. Okay, that's easy. But then when you have 100,000, okay, it becomes a bit more complex. So people start running away from zakat and looking for loopholes. They go into their inland revenue mode. Yeah, ever know that inland revenue mode? Okay, this is not the time for inland revenue mode. Okay, when we talk about zakatable, we're not talking about taxable. Okay, they're two different things. Zakat is ibadah and it's fard, and you need to really take care of your zakat. And many Muslims, they choose to give the zakat in Ramadan, hoping for more rewards, and there's nothing wrong with this. So brothers, the important thing is you give your zakat, whether it's in Ramadan or outside of Ramadan, and this is an obligation. And poor people are out there. So many Muslims, they live below the breadline, as it's called. So we need to use our zakat. And there are many categories that are deserving of zakat. However, I would say to the brothers and sisters, try to help the poor people more. This is the right of the poor, even though many people, they try to help mashari al-khayriyah or projects of good, like da'wah projects and stuff like this. Better to avoid these kind of projects because it's ikhtilaf on the meaning of fi sabilillah regarding the categories of people who can take the zakat. So try to avoid this and try to focus more on the poor people, and inshallah this is beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Qur'an is good in Ramadan, dhikr is good, sadaqah is good. Anything else we can do in Ramadan? Okay, great. Pray through the night, okay? This is Taraweeh, and I'm coming to Taraweeh, and I may be kicked out of the mosque at the end of it, but okay. Inshallah, okay, so the night prayer, tahajjud, qiyamul layl, these are all names for the same thing. So because generally speaking this is something which is beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like Allah ta'ala says in the Qur'an, Ya ayyuhal muzammil qumil layla illa qalila nisfahu aw inqus minhu qalila aw zid alayhi wa rattilil qur'ana tartila. That all you covered up, that pray most of the night apart, qumil layla illa qalila nisfahu aw inqus minhu qalila, half of it or slightly less. أو زد عليه ورتل القرآن ترتيلا, or slightly longer and recite the Qur'an beautifully. So this is from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, from his practice to pray Qiyam every single night, and the pious people and the righteous people, they practice this. However, in Ramadan, because this time is so special, then it becomes more recommended to do this, and it's not fard to pray Taraweeh. However, when we were young, they used to tell us that if you don't pray Taraweeh, you only done 50% fast. You heard this before? They used to say, you're not been to Taraweeh, you've only done half a fast. Okay, this fasting is nothing to do with it. Okay, your fast is your fast, and this is from the Sunnah of Ramadan, that you stand in congregation and you perform the Taraweeh. Okay, I'll talk about Taraweeh a little bit. That how many units of prayer? I know this is a bit controversial for some brothers, and they may not agree with me, and we can disagree. I went to one mosque and I spoke about this, and at the end, I wished I hadn't. I had a visit from the local Imam and the chairman, and they were not pleased. Okay, and they said, anyway. The important point is that the Taraweeh is supposed to be long. The Taraweeh is supposed to be a long prayer. It's not supposed to be a 15-minute job. I spoke to one Imam a couple of years ago, and he told me he finishes the Taraweeh in 15 minutes. In 15 minutes. He told me the most important thing, brother, is you do it. It's not a case of long. I said, okay. I said, how do you do it in 15 minutes? He says, it's simple. Qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu akbar. Allahu samad, Allahu akbar. So he finishes it, and then, you're going to watch Olympics. Okay, so important point is not the amount of rak'ah. Number of rak'ah, this is, okay, maybe some scholars, they say this, others say that. Important thing is it should be reasonably long. I realize the night is only short now, 5-6 hours, so it will be difficult for people, and people have to go to work. So the Taraweeh has to be of a reasonable length and maybe not too long. The Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is to do 8 units of prayer and 3 witr. This is the established Sunnah. However, at the same time, he did not prevent his companions from praying more. And he said, Qiyamul Layl mathna mathna, that the night prayer is prayed in units of 2. And some of the companions, they would pray more. In the time of Umar, he ordered the reciters to pray 20 units of prayer. In the time of his grandson, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he said to them, pray 36 units of prayer. Why did they want to increase the number of units of prayer? Anyone know? Why? Why did they go up? They went up because when you pray more units of prayer, it makes it easier, okay, for the people. The people, they can't concentrate. If you pray long, then they can't concentrate. So this is why they decided, because people, they became weak and they couldn't stand for long. So they introduced this, not as a bid'ah, because this is sunnah, this is nafal mutlaq, or a general nafal which has no kind of upper limit. However, at the same time, we say, inshallah, the most authentic and the most accurate is to pray 8. However, if someone prayed more, then just leave them and let them pray more. And in the Haram, they pray 20 in both Medina and in Mecca. And inshallah, it's not a serious issue. And inshallah, it's okay. So this is the issue of praying Taraweeh. How long should you pray for? You should pray until the Imam finishes. You know this? The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Man qama ma'al imam hatta yansharifa kutiba lahu qiyam al-layla." That whoever prayed with the Imam until the Imam leaves, then it's written for him as though he prayed the whole night. When we were young, we used to go to the mosque where they prayed 20, and then we'd leave at 8. We used to just walk out, protest. So, we used to do this. But when we became a bit older and read a few more hadith and a few more books, then we realized that, stay with the Imam. This is the hadith. That in the Imam, he will make dua in the witr. Also, a point is that the qunut in the witr, is this every day or just sometimes? Sometimes, yeah. Many of the a'imma, they do it every day. This is not from the sunnah to do it every single day. So we should try to avoid this. Rather, sometimes they do it some days, and other days they don't do it. I told this to some of the qurra, some of the reciters, but they ignored me as usual. Yeah? They said, no, we're going to do it. So it's better that some days we do it, other days. And we should also consider the people. There's some people, they have to go to work and other considerations. So it'll be easy on the people, that maybe in the last 10 more qunut and maybe other times less. So this is down to the discretion of the Imam, and inshallah we shouldn't be too strict about it. What else can we do? In the last 10 nights of Ramadan, these are the most special nights. Why are they so special, the last 10 nights of Ramadan? Laylatul Qadr, okay, we are seeking Laylatul Qadr. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, the Laylatul Qadr, or the night of the name Qadr. The name Qadr in Arabic, it means either the night of value. Like you say something has Qadr, you mean it has value. So it can be translated as the night of value, or even that the Qadr is for the year is known to the people. Is known to the people. By the way, I forgot to mention. I think I lost my track early on. The Qur'an was revealed from the Lawh al-Mahfuz, from the preserved tablet, to the lower heavens, Baytul Izzah, on the night of Qadr. On the night of Qadr. I forgot to mention this when I mentioned that the Qur'an was revealed on the night of Qadr. So Laylatul Qadr is a great night, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has informed us, Laylatul Qadr khayrun min alfi shahr, that the night of Qadr is better than how many months? 1000 months, which is how many years? 83 years. So this is a great night of ibadah, and many of us, we are negligent in our ibadat. We didn't do many nafals in our lives. We were negligent. We didn't do much ibadah. So we should look for this night. And the Prophet ﷺ specifically encouraged us to look in the last 10 nights, in the odd nights, 21, 23, 25, 27, 29. So these nights, it's more preferable that we make some additional effort. All through Ramadan, make effort. However, our batteries become weak. So in the last 10 nights, and the Prophet ﷺ, he said, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالْخَوَاتِيمِ, the actions are by the ending. So if you have a good ending in Ramadan, then inshallah it's a good sign that your whole Ramadan was a great Ramadan. You went for gold medal in Ramadan. Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he was asked that which are the best 10 days and which are the best 10 nights. And he said, the best 10 days are the 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. Everyone knows Dhul Hijjah? The month of Hajj. So these are the 10 best days, and the best 10 nights are the 10 nights of Ramadan. So the whole of Ramadan is special, but especially the nights. The nights are extra special, and it's a blessing from Allah, even though the fast is long. Now it's very, very easy to stay up all night, isn't it? The night is only 5 hours. You go home from Taraweeh and it's 1 o'clock or 12 o'clock, and then Suhoor is 3 o'clock. So you may as well stay up for 2 hours and watch Olympics. No, don't watch Olympics. Then you may as well do some Qur'an and some other things, and then inshallah have suhoor, pray fajr, and then that's it. So it's a great opportunity that we can stay up all night. Most Ramadan we can stay up in the night because the night is so short. It's a great opportunity. So Ibn al-Qayyim, he commented on the statement of Ibn Taymiyyah and said it's a really beautiful statement that his Shaykh made. And because we are looking for the night of Qadr, of this special night which Allah Ta'ala elevated because the Qur'an was revealed in this night, Allah Ta'ala made this night really special, and Jibreel alayhi salam descends with the other angels, and the night is calm. Because of this, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what did he used to do in the last 10 nights? Sorry, he used to? I'tikaf. Okay, i'tikaf is when you seclude yourself in the masjid. And the i'tikaf basically means, the ulama, they said, qat'ul ala'iq anil khala'iq, the cutting of relationships from the creation. So the ulama, or rather Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this was from his emphasized practice, that in the last 10 nights he would do this. And after he passed away sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his wives, they carried on the practice of i'tikaf. So this i'tikaf, it continues. Can the i'tikaf be performed in the home? Many women, they're locked in the kitchen first 20 nights, then they lock themselves in a room for the last 10. So can you do a DIY i'tikaf? Far as I know, you cannot do i'tikaf in the home. Okay, and Allah Ta'ala said in the Qur'an, وَلَا تُبَاشِرُوهُنَّ وَأَنْتُمْ عَكِفُونَ فِي الْمَسَاجِدِ, that don't go to your wives and you are making i'tikaf in the masjid. So Allah Ta'ala specifically mentioned that the i'tikaf is in the masjid, so it must be in a mosque. So for example, if the mosque has place for women, then the women can come and make the i'tikaf. In Bradford we have some of the masajid where they have i'tikaf for women. So you can go there, and then the idea of the i'tikaf is you dedicate yourself just to worshipping Allah. You forget the dunya, no mobile phone, no iPod, no tablet, no this, no that. Okay, you just go there and you just worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and just forget about your email, which is quite hard. I'tikaf, I don't want to mention the ruling of i'tikaf. Basically there are 3 types of action. Number 1, you have those actions which you must do, like go to the toilet or things like this. Even if you leave the masjid, no problem. Or if no one brings you food, you can go to Dixie's and have your chicken and chips or whatever. Okay, if you have to go for food, you can go for food. The second level of action is that you can apply a precondition that before you enter the mu'takaf or the place of i'tikaf, you can make a precondition that I usually visit my mother who is ill. Then you can have this as a condition that I will go every other day and visit my mother, or something like this, something important, shar'an, in the Shariah, you can specify this. The third type of action is just leaving the masjid with no apparent reason. This will break the i'tikaf, mean that you didn't fulfill the sunnah. You didn't fulfill the sunnah. However, can you perform the i'tikaf for less than 10 days? And the answer is yes, that many of the ulama, they said you can perform the i'tikaf if you have the intention for even for 1 day. Some of the ulama, they said even for 1 hour. However, it's better to avoid less than 1 day, to avoid the ikhtilaf. The ikhtilaf is much for less than 1 day. So try not to, if you make the intention, then try to come for 1 day. Maybe you can only come for 1 day, but come for 1 day and just worship Allah, and then you can go home. Inshallah, this is okay as well. When is Laylatul Qadr? This is another one of those questions, that when is Laylatul Qadr? Who knows when Laylatul Qadr is? Sorry? The last odd nights, this is correct, but when is it? Which one? Only Allah knows, okay? Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. Some of the ulama, they did have statements. Then there are some statements that it was the 21st night, and this is the opinion of Imam al-Shafi'i. He said it's 21st night. Everyone has evidences. Everyone has evidences. I don't have time to mention the evidences. Some of the other ulama, they said it's the 23rd night. Others said the 27th night. And this is the opinion of the majority of scholars. Majority of scholars, they did say the 27th night. This is why in many of the masajid, they choose the 27th as the night. They do what? They complete the Qur'an, yeah? Because of this, because of the majority of scholars, they said the 27th night. Many places they complete the Qur'an on the 27th night, although it doesn't have to be the 27th, it can be the 30th, it can be the 23rd, or whenever. Others, they said that there is no specific night. Laylatul Qadr, it rotates. Every year it's a different night. What's the advantage of this? Keeps you on your toes. I like it. Keeps you on your toes. That you're always thinking, maybe it's tonight. If you thought it was the 27th, you fall asleep all Ramadan, and you wake up on the 27th. You seen that? The mosque is packed. The committee is saying, we need an extension. Okay? And then Fajr time on the day of Eid, not one person in the mosque. So this is a good opinion. This variable night is a good opinion because it keeps you on edge. That every night you're thinking, this is the night that let me do more. So we should be extra active. So go looking for other opportunities. Start thinking to yourself, what can I do in the last 10 nights? What can I do? Anything which is beloved to Allah, you can do. Okay, best thing is Qur'an and dhikr, but even other things like seeking knowledge and other things, even though many of the companions, they would put away other books. You know, if you need to spend some time, then you can do some kind of Islamic book reading or something which brings you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the last 10 nights, he would tighten his izar meaning the lower garment, and this means that he would like tighten his belt, you know, or pull up his socks. He would pull up his socks and he would do more ibadah. So we should try to be like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, my time is coming to an end. How do we know that Laylatul Qadr took place? How do we know this? We know there are signs. There are signs that like the night is calm, the night is cool. In the morning the sun rises with no rays. There are certain hadith which indicate that there are signs that Laylatul Qadr was the previous night. So there are certain signs which you can look out for, but only Allah knows. Ultimately, only Allah knows if that night was Laylatul Qadr or not. Another action you should do in Ramadan is this A to Z of fasting. The Z stands for Zakat al-Fitr. Zakat al-Fitr. The Zakat al-Fitr is something which many Muslims, they forget about. And the idea of Zakat al-Fitr is that Muslims around the world who don't have much money, they have something to eat on the morning of Eid. They have a good breakfast on the morning of Eid. So every Muslim who has enough for his needs, then he should pay the amount for sa'a, which is approximately 2.5 kilograms of the staple diet. of the staple diet. Yeah, in this country it's fish and chips, but in other countries it would be rice or barley or something like this. Okay. Zakat al-Fitr should generally be given as foodstuffs. It should not be given as money. In the UK we give as money with the intention that somebody will use the money to buy foodstuffs and then distribute to the poor. So this is our intention. Actually giving money direct to the poor, this is not the sunnah. And there is some ikhtilaf. The Hanafi scholars, they hold that you can give money. However, the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is to give food, to give the staple diet to the people. So we should try to do this a few days before Ramadan. I'm sure the mosque here will collect amount of money. I think it says £2.50 here. So it's £2.50 per head. So in a family, if you have, 4 people, that's a UK family, 4 people. If you have 4 people, that's £10. Okay, £10. 2 up, 2 down. Okay, family, you're £10. If you have a bigger family, then it's a lot more. Inshallah, I think I've got to Z now. I think I must have got to Z by now. I've covered everything, I think, inshallah. So, inshallah, in the first lecture, to summarize the whole program, we spoke about excellence of fasting. We spoke about those people who should fast and those people who are exempt, either in totality or partially. We also spoke about the aspects which break the fast. We mentioned this. In the second lecture, the etiquettes of fasting, we mentioned those acts which make the fasting more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, about the suhoor, about the iftar, about reading Qur'an. We spoke about the issue of Taraweeh. We spoke about the issue of moon sighting as well. We spoke about the issue of Laylatul Qadr. We spoke about the issue of Zakat al-Fitr. So inshallah, I'm sure I've covered the A to Z somewhere in there. We've got from A to Z, somehow, alhamdulillah. So the main thing is, brothers and sisters, that we make this sincerely for the sake of Allah. That really we try to really think to ourselves why we're fasting. Because sometimes we'll have these crisis moments. You get to 10th day and you're having a caffeine withdrawal symptom. And you're wondering, why am I fasting? You're wondering, why am I fasting? So we need to really have that iman, that I'm fasting not because of anybody else. I don't care what they're doing in the mosque or anywhere else. I am fasting because this is beloved to Allah and I want the reward from Allah. It's very, very easy to say, but the intention is critical. That the intention is, if it's heavy, the fasting will be heavy in the scales on the day of judgment. If the intention is light, then maybe the reward will only be light. So the main thing is, we do it for the sake of Allah. Don't forget about the people, what they say and what they're doing. Just do it for the sake of Allah and think about this a lot throughout the day of the fasting, because this is an action of the heart. Many people, they focus on the physical actions, but what's happening to the heart? What's happening to the heart? As one of our sheikhs used to say, that the ibadat of the heart sometimes is bigger than the ibadat of the limbs. And sometimes you see people running around doing this and that, maybe somebody else, their heart is fearing Allah. Their heart is crying for the sake of Allah. That the heart is hoping for the mercy of Allah. And sometimes the ibadat of the heart, they are bigger than the ibadat of the limbs. So never look down on anybody else. I gave away £1,000, this brother, he did nothing. Maybe his actions of his heart are like mountains, and your actions are only small in the sight of Allah. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept all our fasting sincerely for His face, and to accept from all the Muslims and forgive all the Muslims wherever they may be, whether they are living or dead. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.